exhaust fell apart. Ow. So obviously, chainsaw's running. Uh, the exhaust fell off because I forgot to tighten it. That's on me. Everything else is fine. Uh, from what I'm seeing, the chain is horribly dull or on backwards. Not sure. Could be either one. Neither of those is a problem because the wild thing is back to being a wild thing again. And that's great because I got a ton of lumber that I got to cut up. It's not lumber yet, it's logs. I got a ton of logs I got to cut up. It is a glorious 66 degrees in central North Carolina. Loving it. But it just told me what that was in Celsius and I didn't care. Anyway, I have a ton of logs I got to cut up. I told you before I wanted to get them ready for bowl blanks, and I still need to do that. And I have a short window of nice weather. So now, it wasn't easy getting this thing running, and it looks like it's going to start raining. So let's head into the shop. We'll talk about it in there. So let's talk about how we got here as I fixed the exhaust that fell off. That ought to do her. As I said, it's running now. Obviously, from the last video you saw of me working on this, it was not running. And I filmed part of the process of this because I thought, victory! No, no. It wasn't a victory. It was a failure after a failure after a failure. You see, the last thing you saw was a basic cleanup on this, which it needed bad. I mean, you saw it was bad. I'm going to spin this around because also the chain was on backwards. You ever do that on your table saw? You're in such a hurry that you just throw the blade on and you don't even pay attention to it. And then, am I the only one that did that? Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Anyway, I was in a hurry and I put the chain on backwards. But how did we get to this point? I did the whole cleanup, which the last thing you saw was it going brrr, bogging down. And I thought, well, what could be the problem? Maybe a fuel filter or this or that. And so you start, there were things that I did that I shouldn't have done. How do they say that in YouTube land? Mistakes were made. Anyway, I'm a mechanic. There's a certain diagnostic trail that you follow. And I chose not to follow that. I did not heed the same advice that I give my wife anytime she gets a headache and, you know, goes on Google and self-diagnoses and finds out that she's dying. I just tell her, hey, take an aspirin and go lay down for a little bit. So I went to Google and I started chasing things on there. I went to YouTube, started chasing things on there. And even the advice that my dad always gave, boy, that's getting oil now. Woo-woo. Even the advice that my dad gave me as a mechanic was always check the simple things first. I didn't do any of that. I self-diagnosed. I went to the most difficult stuff first. But I did think, well, maybe the fuel filter. Okay. So I put a fuel filter on, and in doing so, found that the lines were kind of crispy. They were sealing, but they didn't have a whole lot of life on them, in them. And so I went that route, which kind of looked like this. This guy's hungry. I'll get to the carburetor, but priorities. So once that was done and ending in epic failure, that's when I really started to look at videos. And I ran across a channel. It's a great channel, actually. If you got small engine equipment and like don't know what to do with it, check out, the name of the channel is Chickanic. It's Chickanic, one word, Chickanic, Chickanic. This is a woman in, I think, Alabama, fixes small engines. She's really, really good at it. And she did a couple of videos on canned fuel versus out of the pump fuel. And there's one particular brand of canned fuel, which I shall not name, but it starts with a T. And they're telling you that it's not false. It's the opposite of that. Do the math, people. Anyway, and I thought, well, I'm using canned gas. Could that be the problem? So, got gas. Mixed the oil up. Got all done. Here's what that looked like. So then I started thinking, it's definitely maybe the spark. So I checked for spark. It had spark. It wasn't that. And that was a concern because I had the spark magnetic pickup off and I didn't pay attention to where it went and all that kind of stuff. Way too tight. So I worked with that a little bit, didn't fix it. Pump. Oh, there's the screwdriver I was looking for. Right where I left it. So I pumped the snot out of the primer bulb to the point where this thing should be flooded 10 times over, pulled it 10 or 15 times, pulled the plug, no fuel in the cylinder. So there we go. At that point, I decided that maybe the needle valve in the carburetor is stuck. Now that comes from the automotive side that I'm familiar with. So I took the carburetor off and set about taking it apart, cleaning it up. And that's what this looked like. I'm not sure how I got away with doing it where I was doing it. Okay, I didn't get anywhere. By this point, I'm super frustrated because how can this carburetor, which I have put so much love and time into, do this to me? How could it do this to me? I've loved it. I've cared for it. I've nurtured it. And it's failing me. Happens all the time. So I decide when I was getting the fuel line kit, I saw carburetors listed on the old Amazon. And ironically, the fuel line kit and the filters were $9. New carburetor was $16. So new carburetor, that's going to solve all of the world's problems. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a carburetor on it and we're going to be good to go. And we're going to get her running again. I'm going to tighten the snot out of this thing. Except, no. And here's what that looked like. Ooh. You gotta be kidding me. One thing I noticed when I was putting the carburetor on was the return line. What is, oh, that's nasty. What is that? The return line to the gas tank had a ton of pressure in it. I'm talking a ton of pressure in it. When I took it off of the carburetor, it shot gas 3 or 4 feet. I mean, it had a lot of pressure in it. So that got me thinking, that shouldn't be like that. And that's when I discovered the old fuel cap has a vent in it. I didn't know that. Mine was covered up with gook and muck and yuck, and I never even knew there was a hole there. There is a video where someone takes the fuel cap apart and cleans it all out and things like that. And I started to do that, but I could see that it was going to break when I did that, so I stopped. And so I got the simplest tool there is and fixed it. Now I say that because in the midst of all of this, I actually bought the set of carburetor adjustment tools that I said I wasn't going to buy. I did buy them and started twisting screws like they were going out of style. to no end. I stuck a paper clip in the hole in the center of the cap, cleaned it out really well, primed it, pulled it, and it fired up. And then you see it's screaming, full RPM, idles nicely. I did have to adjust the idle on the new carburetor, and I might have it at just a titch too high. And I might have to back it off just a little bit because your blade's not supposed to spin at idle. But it's just, what a kick in the butt. You know, it's one of those things. What a kick in the butt. I did not follow my dad's advice. I did not follow the same advice that I give to my wife. And I went down a rabbit hole of fuel line parts. Now, with that said, here's the upside to all this. Anytime you order anything on Amazon that comes from sushi land overseas, they're going to give you a new fuel filter, a new air filter, and a new spark plug. So currently, I have a backup carburetor. I have 2 more air filters. I have 2 more spark plugs, and I have enough fuel line to change the fuel lines again on this 2 or 3 more times. And let's face it, folks, I'm going to die before this thing does. So that's my story, sad but true. But now it's running great. Now the chain's on the correct direction. And if it does stop raining, it's not raining bad, but it's raining enough that I don't want to be out in the rain. But I've got to get those logs processed. And you saw I've got some 10, 15-foot logs out there that are going to be cut up for spindle projects. And then I have logs, like big honking logs that are going to be bowls. But I need to get through all of them. So sorry I didn't put a video out last week. I was pretty frustrated about this. And I don't hide my failures on this channel. Not failures, mistakes. Or as Bob Ross calls them, happy accidents. I don't hide my happy accidents, and but this one was just one after another, and I was dejected, I was upset, and I said, that's it, no more. I'm not filming again until this thing's fixed. But now it's fixed. So I skipped the video last week, and I'm sorry about that. And I'm probably going to go to every other week on my videos, because if I have a busy week, that leaves me one day to film a project. So if I go every other week, I have a little bit more time. I've got some neat things that I want to build or at least try. Some of them are, I'll say simple, but complex. How can that be? Well, it can be. And I'm going to have to do some looking at this item to see how it was actually made. It's a craft show item. My wife bought it at a craft show. Spent $15 on it. That'll work. And so, and it's kind of cool and nifty, and I've not seen one on YouTube. I have that. She just told me recently she wants end tables built for the living room. And so that's going to be a new thing, although I think we're getting a new couch, so I might have to wait on that. But hey, I'm going to go every other week, hopefully a little bit better content. The projects still might be what they are, but at least I'll have some time to put into it. So it's currently not raining, I don't think. So, and I'm going to take advantage of these cool days because I'd like to get these logs cut up while it's cool and maybe have time to throw some insulation on the roof of this thing. So in the meantime, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for putting up with the saga of the chainsaw parts 1 and 2. You know, I feel like it's Jaws at this point. Dun, 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 dun. But thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one. God bless.